In episode 3, after Tessa's death, Joel and Ellie continue their way up north to try and find Tommy, making, basic banter, finding little things here and there, and sort of talking about what happened before the apocalypse happened. Going back to 2003, this time from the perspective of a man named Bill, played by Nick Offerman, who is sort of a paranoid survivalist who has cameras all over his house and has a weapon stash in his basement. And after everyone else in his neighborhood clears out because of, the outbreak, he goes out and starts hoarding supplies and all kinds of stuff to make his neighborhood the ultimate sort of sanctuary or whatever, at least for himself. After a few years of surviving, he notices someone approaching his compound via his security system and finds a man named Frank, played by Murray Bartlett, who has been roaming around for a while trying to get something to eat and other supplies, and convinces Bill to let him inside just for a meal. And Bill lets him inside, allows him to take a quick shower, and makes him some chicken, a very fancily made chicken, and Frank really loves it, and not having eaten for a while, but also because it's seemingly well made. And after a bit more visiting and stuff, Frank mentions a piano that Bill has and tries to play a tune and sing along to it, but it's not really done too well, so he convinces Bill to do the same, except he does it a little bit better. And after some talking through that, we find that Bill is obviously very lonely, hasn't really had a relationship much, and after this and more talking, Bill and Frank get together and form their own relationship in this apocalyptic wasteland, basically. And we continue on their story for a while. More years pass. They sort of start to repair some of the other buildings and little shops in the town and neighborhood, sort of. And they also grow other plants, fruits and vegetables, that sort of thing, which Bill started doing before, but now he's got someone to help him. And then after a while, we cut to another year after to find that Frank invited some strangers to just meet up with them and talk a bit, and it turns out those strangers are Joel and Tess, and they're just talking. Bill is obviously very skeptical with his gun out and everything, but everyone doesn't seem to mind except for Frank, who's a little embarrassed. But they seem to sort of hit it off, despite Bill being apprehensive, but Joel doesn't mind too much, being used to that sort of behavior even from himself. And then after that point, we cut a while later, and some bandits or whoever try to storm the compound, but Bill's security measures and traps end up working a little bit, as those traps end up taking out a few of the bandits, and Bill comes out with a gun trying to fend them off. Frank tries to help, but Bill wants him to get back, but he gets shot in the process, and as they get back inside, Frank is able to heal Bill for the moment. And then after that, we cut even further, finally to the present in 2023, where it seems not only are Bill and Frank much older, but Frank seems to have gone through some sort of illness, possibly MS from what I could tell, and now he's confined to a wheelchair, and Bill has to take care of him. Mostly everything other than that seems well enough. They continue their daily lives. Frank has seemed to even been painting for a while, having some finished portraits on the walls of their house, and one painting he was in the middle of in that previous scene. After a while, Bill's discussing things with Frank, and he tells him that he wants to have one last good day, as it seems he's just gonna pass anyway. So Bill and Frank have one last good day and end up wearing some nice suits and getting married. And finally they have dinner and some wine. And one of the last bottles of wine, as per Frank's request, is laced with something that's supposed to kill him. But after he finishes his glass of wine and Bill finishes his, he reveals that he laced the entire bottle with it because he does not want Frank to be the only one to die. Frank simply accepts this, and he and Bill go back to their room to die. We then cut a little further in the present, where Joel is taking Ellie to the compound to find Bill and Frank. He knows, the code to the gate and everything, so he's able to get inside. And the house is empty, and then Ellie finds a letter written by Bill that's supposed to be for Joel, mostly, because he would probably be the only one to get inside the compound. And Bill gives his last goodbyes. And the letter also mentions Tess, which Ellie hesitates to mention, as we saw earlier. Joel doesn't want to really talk about it. So Joel finishes reading the letter and then just crimples it up. He then goes into the garage near the house and has a car all nice and ready, except for the battery, which he needs to set up. After that, both Joel and Ellie get some new clothes after bathing and get on the road just before Joel lays out some ground rules, not mentioning Tess and just doing what he says. Ellie mostly agrees to this, and then they fully get back on the road, listening to a cassette tape that was left in the car. And then we end on a shot of the open bedroom window. We don't see Bill and Frank's bodies, but we don't really need to. That was episode 3, and I really enjoyed that one. This was, of course, a very sad episode, even with episode 1's strong opening half with Joel and his daughter. But yeah, this was a very strong episode. It was kind of a self-contained story, so to say. Obviously, it followed 2 new characters we didn't know until then, but I think this was good nonetheless. It was sort of like a full version of the opening scenes in the last 2 episodes that were sort of self-contained little moments that added to the overall lore, but this was a bit more than that. Not just, being a full episode in itself. I really liked the relationship between Bill and Frank. It was a decent dynamic. There's a moment in the episode where they're kind of fighting, which is, sometimes what couples do. But of course, I mean argument, not actual, fist fight or whatever. It was very sad at the end, Bill deciding to die with his lover instead of just, living last few months of his life in loneliness. And, you know, seeing Joel and Ellie show up there only to find them dead. It's pretty sad. But it was a good episode nonetheless. I'm excited to see what episode 4 has in store. And yeah, that's pretty much that. I'm gonna give episode 3 a solid 9 out of 10. Hope you enjoyed this review for The Last of Us episode 3. Hope you stay tuned for more reviews and other videos by me. And I also hope you like, subscribe, and more importantly, have a good day. Goodbye.